I am Doug Friedman.
And I am Meredith Levy.
And this is Your Mental Breakdown,
the podcast.
Patreon version.
Right. For you special people out there.
That's right. That's right. How are you doing, my special friend?
I'm good, Dougie. How are you? I miss you.
Aw, I know I haven't seen you in a while. We've been taking a little time off the regular podcast.
Yeah.
And we're still doing this one. Still for you guys, our diehards, our Patreons, our patrons. Patrons?
Sure. I will say, and this is a whole nother topic. Maybe we'll do a inside out on this, but therapist burnout is real. So as much as we love doing this and love working, like
right.
When we're working nonstop and then we're doing this on top of it, like there's burnout and
totally.
It's real. So sometimes we do have to take a break. And even though Doug, you're better about taking breaks, but not really. Because even when you take a break, you're doing something else.
Yeah. And that's, to me, it might be taking a break from clients and then I'm working on this.
Totally. Or your album or something.
Exactly. Taking an actual vacation where I don't have a project that I've manufactured that I'm doing is
right.
Wild and foreign. And I want to get better at that.
Yeah. Me too.
I mean, the times that I've done that in the last 3-4 years have been times where it's related to my body shuts down or grief or something. And that's not the way to do it. You know, I preach about taking time for yourself, slowing down, right? Really finding rest and finding play. For me, it's always been the next project, the next thing I'm working on.
It is hard. And I mean, maybe we should still get back to that shutting down our computers at night. We did that once?
We did it. We failed miserably. We failed wonderfully at that.
Yeah.
And then I remember we were like, okay, let's do it this time. And I think I did it like 3 or 4 days in a row.
Yeah,
because
you did.
It was fresh.
Yeah.
And then and it's easier once you start doing it because the things that you had open, you're forced to like save and put somewhere so that you can close everything, right?
Yeah.
But then I start working on something and I don't finish it. I'm like, oh, I just want to keep it working in the background.
Yep.
Right?
100%. Yeah.
There's the rub right there.
So while we encourage you all to slow down, take breaks, the holidays can be overwhelming. That is for sure. We are trying to take the same advice. So if we're not around as much, that would be why. But here we are.
Absolutely. And for Patreon, for you guys, like we are going to be on here putting stuff out. That's one thing we don't do very well. Like we don't stockpile a bunch of episodes and go, cool, we've got 10 in the can. So we're good for the next 10 weeks. Let's go party. Like, no, it's every week.
We like to do it like right when things are happening. So it's like real time. The sessions might be older, but it's real time with us. And that's just what we like to do. But speaking of real time and the episode,
I messed you up.
So you guys, I don't know about, so I listened to this episode. I listened to it without Doug. I listen to it, I take notes, then Doug and I record, and I'm listening to it and I'm like, wait, let me start this over. Cause I've clearly and I was like, oh, I must be doing the wrong episode. Let me go back. And I was like, what in the fuck is going on? Throughout the whole thing, my notes are like, what, who, what? So please tell me, am I just crazy or?
No. Well, yes, you are.
Right.
So there's a couple of holes I'll fill in for you guys. I rarely use should, but I should have filled you in before you listen to it. I'm like, she's a pro. She'll get it. No problem.
Totally.
But and we cut a lot out of this one too. There were a lot of identifiers in this. So there's just a lot of context you didn't get. So for you guys, what was going on the last Drew session we had, after that, I think he goes like 2 trips happened for him. One was he went back to Seattle for the funeral of his friend. And then he came back and then we actually had a session and there was no audio in it. It's just his audio didn't work. So it was one of those, this has happened a few times. I think we're over it now because even the backup failed where my audio worked. So I have to listen to an entire session of just me talking, not him, but I remember what was said. So I'll tell you a few things that happened in missing sessions. So you get the sense of where we are.
Okay.
And then I'll drop the bomb on you guys that Meredith didn't get. So in that one, we were just talking about knowing his role at work and in the relationship and seeing kind of the two different gears that he can have there.
In the one that we missed, you mean?
Yeah, and the one that you missed.
Okay.
So this is all stuff that he and I talked about. We were talking about finding your grounding in the relationship. And one thing I said to him in that is your partners are different and you're different in every relationship you've been in because you're growing and evolving, hopefully. And that no relationship that you're going to be in is going to be perfect. The perfect relationship is one that recognizes its imperfections and allows for growth of both people.
Right.
And he really took that, like he really got that and liked that idea. And for him, there was a shift of finding support just in one person versus finding the support from the community and the people around you. Because he has always tried for him in every relationship to make that person his sole source of support and sometimes his sole source of happiness, right? Like even his mom and stuff, we see that. And there was an analogy that I used. We talked about the baseball analogy, I think you and I, Meredith, last week. And we really did drill it and kind of looked at like, yeah, you have a whole team behind you. You don't have to strike everybody out as the pitcher. You don't have to throw your best stuff all the time. And Drew actually got emotional during that session, the one that wasn't recorded, where he understood like, you don't have to have your best stuff on the mound as the pitcher. Your community will have your back. Your support is there for you to lean on when you need it. And not like just the reassurance, but just to pick you up a little bit. And he got that. That meant a lot to him. And cool, finished the session and he felt pretty good because he was looking at the community at large. Then he goes to Arizona to surprise his mom. This is the one where we talked about this, I think a week ago, when he was going to just buy the ticket to go see them without asking for permission to buy the ticket.
Yeah. Okay. I remember that.
Right?
Yep.
So this was his mom's birthday and he was going to surprise them in Arizona and see them. Separate from the funeral is the following weekend. So part of what you'll hear is how that went.
Okay.
And what was going on with that. So he is fresh off of some of these things. He's fresh off of the funeral for a good friend of his, fresh off of having that trip to Arizona and how that went. And I think the bomb that I dropped, or I will drop, that I didn't drop on you, the bomb that I'm going to drop on you guys is the day before the session you're about to hear, Drew called me and he was already in a mode of like snooping and not trusting and feeling off.
Because of stuff with his mom. That you'll hear about because a little of it came up here. And he's already been in that mindset, but he goes and finds out that his girlfriend cheated on him. What?
Yeah.
I was so fucking confused as to why her not picking him up at the airport potentially caused a breakup, even though I still wasn't sure about what was happening. Wait. He caught her cheating?
Well, he did.
Okay. Not caught. I mean, but something happened.
Something happened. Yes.
Okay.
So cut to now a day after that phone call with him where he found something on the phone and was like, oh my God, this is not okay. And he's in that place. This is where the session takes place. So he's going to catch us up, but he'll make reference to this and just know that's kind of the climate of where he is and what's going on for him. So this is stuff that we don't really focus too much on in the session, and you guys will hear it and it'll make sense, but it is pretty fresh for him. And we'll come back on, we'll break it down, and you'll hear Meredith go nutty and me explain why I did or didn't press him and do certain things. Cool.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Right. And Meredith will recover because now she feels a little bit better having heard some of this that she didn't hear.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. Oh, you are.
Nah, not because of this though. Okay. We'll be back.
And break it down in a minute. All right. So I know we talked a little last night, and you're going to catch me up in a second. everything that happened today, everything that led up to what you were telling me last night. Before we even do that, I want to see you take a deep breath. I can see it in you, like even as we were setting up, like give me a breath or two if you can.
That's the craziest part about all of this too, just like while I'm talking about it, is like mentally, like rationally I'm okay. Everything kind of like okay. But like my stomach's been really eating in like a day and a half. And like, I'm trying. Like, I sat down and tried to eat a bowl of cereal this morning, but I threw it up, and like I know I need to eat, and I'm trying, but it's just kind of like physically I'm just kind of like, it's just so fucked up right now. I'm not down the rabbit hole or anything, but I'm like still feeling it. It's weird.
Yeah, and it might not be down the rabbit hole, but you had some shit happen this week.
Yeah.
It still takes a toll on us. Without being able to regulate our bodies, even if you know what's going on and it makes sense, you're going to reach for weed. Fill me in. Let me know what's going on. This is spew time again.
Going into not having the session last week, my friend had passed away, so I was kind of already on edge. Like, I thought my homeboy died because he was sick, but turns out it was a drug overdose. So it kind of hit home, so I was kind of somber about it for a little bit. And going into like that weekend, it's kind of on the back of my mind, like already triggered by it, going into like seeing my mom and what that looks like, especially because I knew I was going to surprise her. Like, she had no idea I was going to be there. Get to the hotel, they're sitting by the pool, and I pop my head over the corner because I couldn't get in the gate. And so I'm popping up. I'm like, hey guys, what's up? And like they all look up at me and they're like, oh, what's up? And so I'm all nervous and I'm kind of shaky, like my dad's boss was there and I didn't know that. So I kind of felt like I was intruding on their weekend a little bit at that point.
So you're a little on edge with that.
I'm kind of showing up in a weird way, like I haven't, I guess, before. And then my mom was sitting there with the G&T. My dad's sitting there with another one. They're like, the other couple was drinking too. And like, at first I was like, God, here we go again. It didn't necessarily bother me the way it has in the past, in the sense of like seeing her doing it and freaking out because of it. I still felt bad. I almost felt sorry for her. I was like, fuck, like you're really doing this again? Like, really? Pattern-wise, every time she has one, she has 10. It's never just one. It's never, like, she's never been just one. So if I see one, whether she showed me or not, like, there's a lot more. We kind of sat by the pool at like a table and really chit-chatted and had a nice dinner. Really made me feel welcome in that. And, that felt really good. I was still able to kind of be like, okay, this is good. I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm glad I'm around my parents. I was taking the good in. I was trying to be grateful for what it was. So all good, come back in the morning, and then all of a sudden my mom just has a fucking huge knot on her head. And so what happened was, in the place they were staying, there was stairs, concrete stairs, going from the living room up into like the bedroom, like hallway, right? And so even me, I tripped up those stairs going to the bathroom. So I understand it. And so it's like, I don't know really how to feel about it because she tripped and fell and literally almost killed herself because she's on blood thinners. My problem with all that is like the trust issues I have already. And she's like, oh, I'm fine, and she kind of tried to talk to me about it that day too. She's like, yeah, you see me having a drink, like it's my birthday, like I'm okay, like I got all my demons out of me, like everything's fine, like I've had that conversation so many times. And so it's like, okay, like here we go again. And then to see her like that, and so embarrassed and right back to her falling in the street after my football game, I'm right back there. And I was like, why didn't you guys go to the hospital? And I guess that's where my Superman comes in, where I would have instantly, no, we're going to the fucking hospital right now. Like, let's go get looked at, make sure everything's okay. Like, nah, like we don't mess around like this, right? Like it's a serious thing. And so I guess I was kind of disappointed in that and kind of how it was treated and taken care of. And I think that somewhat reinforced how I feel about my feelings of not being there and being able to kind of like watch over it and help. I think those feelings definitely came up. And then, leaving, I really broke down when I left. Like, I was cool the whole way. I didn't cry once. And then, I don't know, for whatever reason, like, I was just hugging my mom on the way out. And I just couldn't let go of her. It was one of those things where I needed to hold her for a minute. And, I don't know. Like, I told you about the note she wrote me, when she tried to commit suicide, like, the second time. And I had this just weird, eerie feeling, like this gut, weird, eerie feeling that was like me saying bye to my mom right there. And I, like, you know, and I think it was really hard to walk away. And so I texted a girlfriend, and I was like, hey, like, I'm not doing good. I can't really explain it right now. Like, I just really need you right now, right? Like, in a really big way, I need you to show up right now. And she had gone out to go to the bars, and she's like, yeah, I'll pick you up. Like, don't worry, I'll be there. Great, right? And so I text her like right when I'm about to take off, and I'm like, hey, here's my flight, here's my shit, I'll see you in a little bit. And she doesn't text me back, and I'm like, yo, are you drinking? Like, don't, like, what do you, like, come on. Like, are you drinking and driving? Like, that's a fucking horrible idea. Like, do you want me to just take an Uber? And she was like, yeah, it's probably better if you take an Uber. And so, like, instantly, like, I just felt super lonely. And like, it's been weird kind of like throughout all of this process is like, I've been crying, you know, and I felt this, but like at no point have I lost sight of who I am and that I am okay, and that it hurts really fucking bad, but it's going to be like, I'm going to be okay. And I know that I've been through worse and I've gotten through better. But, you know, I had this weird kind of gut feeling. I went snooping. Also can't allow myself to get trapped just because I feel comfortable with her. I want to forgive her, and like, I think you can work through anything. And like, I want to have that type of relationship. I want to be able to say that like I stood my ground and like I didn't get mistreated, which is kind of hard for me to understand. And so like half of me sees like the really good in her and all of that, and wants to at least have one foot out the door, not close the door, if that makes sense.
What's the one foot out the door?
I think it's giving myself the opportunity to be okay with being by myself and walking away, while still giving an opportunity for self-growth and an opportunity to mess up and learn from it. I feel like I get hurt a lot of the time by being vulnerable. And I think this is kind of one of those situations where I don't want to lose sight of who I am in anything. And I'm not going to allow myself to stay in an abusive relationship in that sense. You know, like, fuck that. I don't put up with that. I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with it. Kind of where we're at right now is, we're broken up. Like, you can't live here. You gotta come get all your shit. If you want an opportunity, then I need you to show me by being single and not going out and fucking around and getting your shit straight and really working on yourself. And, you know, I'm not saying like never are we ever gonna get back together, but I don't want that right now at all. I was able to listen to my gut. And that was one of my gratefuls that I wrote down the other day, which is crazy. And I also wrote down awareness. I'm trusting myself a lot more. And I think while I'm trusting myself a lot more, it's allowing me to kind of not trust people and still understand that I can have a relationship with them. Just kind of in a, like my mom, I don't trust her at all, you know, like at all. And I still love her. And I still want her in my life. And like, it's still my mom. Detachment is so hard for me. Because it's like, well, like, I want to love everybody. I just don't know morally where I can draw a line of like, well, yeah, that hurt really bad and I got to never talk to you again. I have forgiveness in my heart, and I want to be able to help build you from this, whether that means I'm in your life as a relationship or not. You know, like I even said this to her, like I was like, I really hope that you can see like what you did in all this and how fucked up it was, so that hopefully your next relationship can benefit off of this and you can be better off from it. I really hope that you can learn something from this, whether that's me, whether that's the next one, whether I don't, you know, who knows? I just hope that she can grow. And I think I'm growing a lot right now too in my own. And I think this last year has really allowed me to kind of build a foundation for that, which is like such a blessing for me, because this conversation versus old girlfriend is so different, you know, and I feel it and I can see it. And I'm so grateful for that. Cause I mean, time means everything, isn't it? You know, it's just kind of making me take a step back and like, I'm trying to understand like the master plan and all of this and kind of be along for the ride and kind of let go of control a little bit, you know, as much as I want to stay in control, especially in the relationships in my life and what that looks like. It's self-reflection, self-progression over the last year and a half, 2 years. And so like to be able to get through that, handle it, and still feel it, and still be like, yeah, I'm not okay right now. I know what I'm doing. I'm not just fucking a chicken with my head cut off. You know what I mean? I know what I'm doing. And then, as long as I'm happy, that's like what's most important. Having my community around me. I think I've always been the person that needed somebody else in my life. I always needed that puzzle piece. And I thought I was rolling with her, and I thought that was cool. And thought we were on the same pathway.
You were on the same pathway. Who you are now versus who you were a year ago. You've built a lot of strength in yourself. You should give yourself a lot of credit for that, because that's hard to do. You're a different man than you were a year ago. And that's you being in your life and experiencing it. And that's your whole complete circle, not because you shoved a missing pie piece in there and now you're okay. It's your life. You got people around you that are around you for who you are and what you attract, not where you fit in. I offer me as just me and being authentic.
Right. And I think that's what I'm finally seeing now. In a lot of that, I think I'm kind of taking a step back at this point and just being proud of myself in a very grateful, appreciative, very blessed, very proud type of standpoint now. And that's exactly what the point of what I want to be doing in my life is. No matter what I'm doing as far as work, I just want that connection. I guess why I'm again, like, I'm fucking hurt by girlfriend because it's a trust thing. As much as I don't want to say it, like, it's just reaffirming like my truth of everything running in a pattern. And, I'm kind of taking a step back on this one and self-reflecting now and being like, well, I read it one day a while back, and he basically said the definition of insanity is repeating the same pattern and expecting a different outcome. And I'm like, okay, well, I keep having the same outcome. What's the pattern? And so I'm trying to kind of like self-reflect now on what that looks like. Again, like, I don't want to be in another relationship. I don't just want a body next to me. I think that's what I really like craved for a while, was just a body here. And I think that even though that's still hard, I still crave that. Like, it's still there, but it's not overwhelming to where I'm almost crippled by it.
Yeah, it's not overtaking you. It's there and you're aware of it. In the beginning, causes us to overlook things. And you wanted to love her. I would argue that you were not loving yourself, that you did not respect yourself the same way you would respect other people. Who you really are is worthy of love as you actually are.
Yeah, well, and I think right now, too, I'm experiencing self-respect at its finest. And I think I'm really proud of how I'm handling this. Yeah, you hurt me, but you need, let's talk about it. Because hopefully at the end of the day, I can either leave with a less bitter taste in my mouth, or again, I think the
How do you do that?
I honestly, if I never talk to her again right now, I think that I would regret that. It's just not who I am. Even with old girlfriend, we always had that kind of lingering, it wasn't finished type of thing up until a year ago. I don't want that with her. Yeah. I don't want the lingering anything. I want to be very mature about this, and I'm not going to just get emotional and have her crying, I'm sorry, and be like, oh, I see you crying, okay, we're good. I'm not doing that. And so I don't know, I think I'm very hurt, and I'm very proud of myself for being hurt and being okay.
Yeah, I'm proud of you for saying that I'm hurt and not overlooking you. You are hurt, and there is a wound, and you do need to heal that. Coming off the heels of just seeing your mom and what she's doing, at some point we can get into looking at a pattern of choosing people consciously or unconsciously where I'm going to replay and play out the relationship with my mom.
I don't know, at a certain point you just kind of got to laugh. It's just okay, it's so, I don't know. It's, I feel like everybody deals with this to a certain degree. It's kind of funny to sit back and laugh because it's human. It's a human experience. It's just kind of crazy that the acceptance, I think, again, going back to a year ago, year and a half, when you gave me the 10% of disappointment, I think that's kind of morphed and transformed into true acceptance of what my life is, and who I am and what I want. It's kind of nice to step back and be like, okay, this is just kind of the human experience. I'm going to be okay. It sucks. But the cool thing is, And I've said this before, every time shit gets really bad, it always gets really good after. Like always. And so like what I'm looking at my horizon and kind of what I'm super excited for this year. And it's just it's a lot more grounded excitement in what I'm doing instead of the uncontrolled shooting in the dark as I was last year. Whereas now I kind of feel like I got some stepping stones that I can kind of follow. And
I'm gonna channel you for a second and throw two things at you that come from you. The first one is you knowing you're okay. You recognize, okay, there's a lot I can't control out there. What I control is in here. Wait, I can be me. I don't have to be anything for anybody else. I can actually be me. I'm going to get support come to me. Second thing I'll tell you, you can lie to everybody else. Can't lie to yourself. Said I want to throw love into that.
Yeah.
You can't love anybody else until you love yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Now that I trust myself, I think I'm really scared to trust other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I've been burned. You're going to be a little more hesitant. Oh, yeah. Maybe I don't need to jump right in. Maybe I don't need to throw on the cape and rescue everybody else. Maybe I don't need to be rescued, but maybe I need to just sit here and be me while somebody can be them. And we can just, cool, here we are.
I think what I'm understanding is like, I'm okay alone. I think I'm alone right now and I'm 100% okay. I have my thoughts, I cry a little bit, but at the end of the day, like I'm okay. I think now understanding that and kind of having the mindset of not wanting to get into a relationship and kind of really focusing on myself. I am doing everything that I want to be doing and doing it how I want to be doing it. Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to give you homework.
Yeah.
You can do it as an illustration or you can do it as writing. You can do it as either one, but I'm giving you Hot Fudge Sunday homework. There's 2 Sundays that I'm picturing and you can do it however you want to do it, right? There's no rules for this, but the 2 Sundays that I'm picturing, one is the Hot Fudge Sunday that you have been before in your life. That when you look at yourself historically, what that Hot Fudge Sunday looked like. Because that was putting on the cape. That was needing this, needing that, and however you want to illustrate it or write it. And the second Hot Fudge Sunday, you can probably guess. Even if I don't have it, here's what I want. Your flavor of ice cream is going to be different. You might not have hot fudge. You might have caramel, butterscotch, whatever. I don't know how many other toppings there are. You might put some Heath bar on the top or Oreos or, whatever, or fruit. I don't know. And maybe right now you're like, no, I don't want a cherry on top right now. Fuck that. No women, no cherry on top. Or it might be like, no, I do want a cherry, but here's what I want the cherry to be like.
Yeah.
And it's okay if right now I don't have one, but I know the kind that I want. And here's what I want. So that when I see it, I'll recognize it. It might sound silly, but it's something about highlighting what has been important to you that shifted over time and what is important to you now.
Yeah. And graphically, that's being able to see those two is going to be fun.
Right. You can go there.
Yeah. And I think I'm okay going there now and not needing, I'm okay going there alone.
Take a couple deep breaths and let your body know you're going to be okay.
Yeah, definitely. And it's crazy. Like I am doing okay. Like I am.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a version of this where I've known you and you would just be fucking devastated. My mom, another buddy, my girl.
Well, I think it's not to say that I'm not. It's just I can handle it. I can do it. I got this.
And we're back.
We are back. Okay. I don't know. I mean, now that you told me some of the information, it makes more sense.
Right.
For sure. It definitely
Right.
makes more sense. And okay, you started him off like take some deep breaths. He was talking about how he's like physically ill, can't really eat, throws up when he eats.
Right.
Again, making a lot more sense. Then talked about how one of his friends died. And I was like, what the fuck? That is horrible and sad. And another thing, that's not an old thing. That's another thing that was piled on all of this, right?
Yeah, the friend had, I mean, that had already happened and that had been building. I think when he got to the funeral, he found out that it was an OD. He didn't know what the cause of death was or what contributed to it. So he found that out.
Okay.
So that was tough for him, like finding out about
sad.
the death. And yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Then again, I was like, wait, okay, he was triggered because of his mom. And then all of a sudden he was surprising his parents. And I'm like, what? But now it makes sense. So he went to Arizona where his parents were. It was her birthday.
Right.
Surprised them. He pulls up and is like looking over the gate to get in, and they're just drinking cocktails by the pool.
Right. And they were staying someplace in Arizona, and he just kind of shows up like, hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? And he just realized like, oh, they're sitting poolside drinking cocktails, having their umbrella drinks. And I think he said his dad's boss was there. And he didn't realize that, that they've got something going on. He just thought they were going to be there for his mom's birthday. And he just show up and surprise them. And there they are sitting with their gin and tonics. And that part didn't really trigger him too much, but it still triggered him.
Well, yeah, because isn't she, quote unquote, supposed to be sober from everything, or is it just from pills?
Well, it's not whether or not she's sober, because I don't know that she's working a program and trying to actively stay sober.
Okay.
I think it's more like he worries that anytime she's losing control, she's reaching for alcohol, reaching for pills, that it's going to be an OD for her in the near term. It's very unsettling for him. And something we've worked on is trying to allow that to be her and not anything that's his responsibility to fix or make better in any way. And that's, that's what he was saying. Like when he came back and saw them the next day, that she had like a huge welt on her head.
Okay. So that was the next day. He wasn't there for that.
No, he didn't see that happen.
Okay. So she fell, he acknowledged there was a thing where that it was easy to trip over, that he tripped over himself, I think.
Yeah. He was like, yeah, I even tripped over those stairs.
Okay. But sure. It just so happens that she tripped over it and had a huge knot on her head. And, when he brought up, she tripped and fell, she could have died because she's on blood thinners. And then he was saying, yeah, I went into Superman action. My thought was, did you? Or like, is that a normal response? You know what I mean? Like, quote unquote, normal. And if it had been in the moment, I think it would have been a very safe and effective and sort of normal response to be like, nope, mom, we're going to the hospital. I get that after the fact, if he were like, well, I'm still taking you to the hospital today, the next day, okay. But like, I don't know that that's Superman.
Well, right. But what he was saying was, here's where my Superman usually comes. Usually I would have been like, we're going to the hospital right now. This is not okay. And he would make sure that he takes care of everything. And that's Superman, right?
Yes.
What he was realizing is, I didn't do that. And it was really cool.
Right.
It was a real shift for him, and something, again, that we've been working on, like not going into that mode. Don't put on the cape. Maybe you just put on the tights. Maybe you don't put it on at all. It's experiencing that. And for him, this was like a challenge, because in real time, he's trying to do that and he's also triggered. You can pick up on the trigger, because then when he's coming home and his girlfriend's not picking him up at the airport, and he's like, fuck, oh, you went out drinking the night before, so I should jump in a car and take a car home, and you're not going to pick me up? Fine, fuck it, whatever. And he's also trying hard not to just say, fuck this, I'm out. So even, like I said, the day before this session, he calls me and tells me about finding something that indicates that she was cheating. But what he's really trying to do here is not be reactive.
But he found out she was cheating the day before the flight?
No. He comes back from the flight.
Okay.
And she doesn't pick him up. So he's having trust issues because of mom.
Right.
So he snoops on the phone, finds this.
Got it.
Sees it, finds out she's cheating, calls me. We process it a little bit. And then the next day, this is what you're hearing.
Okay. So I get it. So he was bummed. He was super bummed about the mom thing. And he called her and he was like, I really need you. Like, I'm bummed. I want your support. Like, pick me up at the airport. She was like, yes, of course. And then he was taking off or landing and she didn't respond. And then eventually he was like, yo, are you drinking? Do you need me to take an Uber? And she's like, yeah, that would be best. So he was already really disappointed just from that, just from the like feeling let down, not cared for, felt alone before he even knew about the okay. Because when I was listening to it, I was like, I mean, that sucks, man. But I was like, you're going to break up with her because of that?
Well, right. But emotionally, remember, his experience was his friend just died of a drug overdose.
Totally.
He goes to see mom. Mom is having alcohol and doing all this. And he said he didn't cry the whole time. He didn't go to Superman mode. But when he went to hug her goodbye, he just couldn't let go. And he started like bawling. And then he described getting this eerie feeling. And he was like, you know, it's that same feeling that I got when she tried to commit suicide the second time and I found the note.
Yeah, the suicide note.
Exactly.
So fucking sad.
So this is where he is when his girlfriend then doesn't pick him up at the airport. So he's where he needed that support that we were just talking about. Like I explained at the top of this show. Yeah. Wanting that support from your community, your team, your people, not just your girlfriend, but all of that. And he gets none of that.
Yes, 100%. No, it's horrible. And the cheating aside, it's hard for her to probably know how bad of a place he is in, that in that moment, he's like, yeah, so triggered by all of this. Like I had this feeling with my mom, blah, blah, blah. Like when she's not there with him, it doesn't excuse her behavior, but I can imagine being out with my friends and maybe being like, just not being able to know. It's still bitchy to be like, no, take an Uber, I'm out drinking. But like, I can see how without being next to someone and understanding, maybe she did know about how he felt and it felt like when he found the suicide note, or maybe he was just like, I'm really bummed. I want you to be there for me. I don't know. Either way, I'm just not playing devil's advocate, and again, this is nothing to do with the cheating, but just that sometimes it's hard to know if people don't really tell us how much when they say they need us, like what's really going on. Right. Yeah.
Because it's, you know, and for him, he said it earlier in the session that he was feeling embarrassed when he saw his mom drinking poolside, the same way he felt embarrassed at that football game when she was like falling down and one of his buddies noticed it. Yeah. And it wasn't like, yeah, my mom, she's a little fucked up. It was that horrible embarrassment coupled with something horrible could happen. So he's not feeling right. And what I've been working on with him and really stressing with him is trying to find that sense of being okay comes from you, you know, that self-talk. And it's not always just organically coming from us. We need a therapist, a good friend, a partner. And it's looking for that and getting it, not seeing where it isn't and adding to what we're already feeling.
Right.
So his MO also has been, if his girlfriend is not there for him the way he wants her there in that moment, he's done. He's out. Goodbye. Yeah. So we kind of slowed that down. And why I didn't even talk about the cheating in this, because he didn't bring it up. That wasn't the main thing. It was, man, his whole system is just way through the roof, like dealing with a lot of these things. The friend dying of a drug overdose, finding out it was the drug overdose, his mom, the partner not picking him up. And he's got all this going on and he just feels like, oh, I've got nothing. Right. It's really trying to build his ego strength, not look at like, oh, the cheat. What are you going to do? No, you can't do that. You can't let her do that. You got to, no. That would be a disservice to him.
Well, and that was the thing. At some point, he talked about having one foot out the door and not closing the door. Right. And then I was like, is he still talking about this relationship? Or are they totally broken up and not talking anymore? Or do we know?
No, he was talking about this relationship. And he was, you know, he pretty much said, hey, I need to just step back for a minute. And well, I think it was really cool that he realizes, look, I'm going to be okay. I want to have one foot out the door. I don't want to close the door. I want to be able to not shut down and still be protective of myself, not lose sight of who I am, as he said, and feeling out his boundaries. He even said, I want to have forgiveness in my heart. Like, okay, but it doesn't mean be a doormat and just let somebody walk all over you. And it doesn't mean shut down. So he's actively navigating, well, what's that going to mean here?
Right.
So giving him some space to really feel that out and see what that means. Love that he also pulled out the definition of insanity, right? Repeating the same pattern, expecting a different result. And he said, I keep seeing the same result and I'm looking for the pattern here.
And then, and again, I'm just wanting to confirm the things that I read or heard or whatever, but he was talking about an abusive relationship. Was that this relationship that he was referring to, or in general, or?
I think what he was saying is, I'm not going to stay in an abusive relationship in that sense. Meaning, if somebody's going to repeatedly be cheating on me or be hurting me or not there for me, I'm not going to stay in that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to keep being vulnerable and keep getting hurt. And that's the protective part. Like, yeah, you can still be protective.
Right.
You know, that's, you know, he said that when I asked, well, what does 1 foot out the door mean? What does that look like?
Right.
He was saying, look, I'm not going to be a doormat. I'm not going to stay in an abusive relationship in that sense, the sense where I'm being vulnerable and I keep getting hurt. Like, nope.
Right.
And I don't want to just close off entirely. So let's see how this works. And I was so proud of him for really kind of just going, well, let me see how I really want to show up here. And when I do, then I'll see who else shows up.
Well, yeah. And he was talking about how, you know, he craves a body, he craves somebody, and having a warm body, having company. Yeah. I mean, romantic, whatever. Sometimes it's just even nice to have your best friend or your sister or whatever. You're sitting on a couch under a blanket watching a movie. Of course, it's different in a romantic relationship, but I mean, even a dog, like, it's nice to literally have a warm body there and just to know that you're not alone. So I think just acknowledging that for him is really important, and for all of us to be okay with the idea that doesn't always have to be the person. Like, sure, it maybe we're very in love with our person, and if we break up, we're crushed. But a lot of times it's like, thank you, next, because sometimes it's just about having a companion.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because we clipped a lot when he was talking about work, you know, and he was working on a brand with somebody and they were doing a lot of things, meeting a lot of people, and had something really exciting potentially happen for the brand. And then the person wound up kind of screwing him over. So it was a lot of what we're talking about, this climate that's going on for him, is happening in his work too. And he was trying to see it as really getting burned in this work relationship where, oh man, I can't put all of my energy into this one partner at work and then get burned and have it all go to shit. Like, okay, and how do I do this? How do I do it without just going fuck it and walking away? And how do I do it without staying in that abusive relationship? You know, and abusive in the sense of somebody, you know, they decide how they're going to do something for their brand together as partners. Right. And then the partner goes out and does it a different way. Like, what? Right. And it blows up in his face and therefore blows up in their faces. Again, it's happening all around him. So he's really like trying to find his grounding, and even said it later in the episode, like, I'm not just a chicken with my head cut off. I know what I'm doing. I'm okay. And it was that experience for him could have been a year ago, the chicken with its head cut off. Yeah. So it's, I even said, like, right now versus a year ago, because if your older girlfriend did this or this happened, like, how would it go? And he'd be like, oh yeah, fuck, totally different.
Yeah. And you talked about you can't love anyone else until you can love yourself, which of course is true and is also very annoying. And that it doesn't mean that we can't have our ups and downs, right? It doesn't mean that we can't be in a healthy relationship and have moments of doubt about ourselves or lack of self-confidence at times. It just means, like, if you're fucking miserable and you really don't like yourself, you are going to be hard pressed to be in a healthy relationship with a person that is your partner, literally.
Totally. It's funny because we've talked about, and in a relationship, I think it's pretty common and all over Hallmark and whatever fucking social media wants to say, that love is unconditional and it's wonderful and it's beautiful. Like, no. There are some things that you need to have conditions on. Like, you're not going to cheat on me. Like, that's not love. That's not okay. You know?
Yeah.
It's the love that he wanted to give to her. He would give freely, but realizing like, oh wait, I'm not getting it back. And he's worked on that reciprocity piece. He's worked on a lot of this stuff so well. When I said, there's two things that you've said to me before, and I'm going to give them back to you. I think he was talking about his dad had said, you can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to yourself. And then he said, yeah, I want to make it about love. You can't love anybody else until you love yourself. That was his line.
Right.
You know, and this is overall what's going on with him now. He's not loving himself. He's starting to, but that idea for him has been forgiveness in my heart. I will forgive her for cheating on me. I will forgive my business partner for screwing this up. I will forgive this, forgive that. And I will love them so much so that they will love me. What he's learning now is, wait a second, no. I'm going to pause, not blow it up and not just be a doormat. I'm going to figure out how I love myself. Then I can see where they all fit. Then I can respond and react to these things.
Right. So tell me about the homework. So I loved the concept. I don't know what you were talking about, but the hot fudge sundae. Okay. So love the concept. So describe what your hot fudge sundae would look like in the past up until now, the things that were important to you, and then the things that are important to you now. I'm trying to think about it. Like, so can it go either way? Can the old one have all sorts of fucking nuts and whipped cream and blah, 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 and then the new one just be ice cream? How are we working here? Tell me about this.
Cool. Yeah. So if you remember from school, it's something called an eco map, right? It's a visual representation of all the systems at play in somebody's life, right? And you look at how strained or broken or strong are the connections to all these things. And when I've talked about relationships, I use the analogy of a hot fudge sundae. I think that was one that my sister gave me a while ago. You don't want to make somebody your entire sundae.
Yes.
You don't want to make them your ice cream base either. You're the ice cream base. Let them be the hot fudge, or let them be the cherries or sprinkles or whatever you put on top of your sundae. But you have to be the ice cream. And it's the ice cream you choose, whether you want to be chocolate or a couple different ice cream, fine. Be that base. And then look at what else would you add into that? What is your hot fudge? Is that your job? Is that listening to music? Is that whatever it might be? So I wanted him to look at, essentially create an eco map for where you've been historically and how things have been.
Right.
And that's looking at, what did things historically look like for you? How did they play upon you? And what are the things that are in your hot fudge sundae? Right. In your eco map. Then what do you want it to look like? And what are you choosing it to be? Right? Because a lot of, I think, how he's been is based on how he's always been, or what he's reacted to in his past. Right. So being able to choose the kind of hot fudge, or like I said, could be caramel or caramel, however you want to pronounce it. Right? But looking at like, what kind of girlfriend do you want to have? What kind of business partner do you want to have? How do you want that to be? And I even said, like, yeah, maybe you don't want a cherry on top. Like, I don't want a girlfriend right now. Don't want one. Right. And that's okay.
I know. I loved I was like, did he have to pick the cherry to be the girlfriend? It was like, come on. It was amazing.
Well, if we were talking about you, clearly I would have just used nuts.
Funny. Funny.
So I guess full circle, you are a little nuts.
With the cherry on top.
That's right.
Okay, so poor fucking guy. I am so sorry, Drew. God, that just sounds like a lot that you've been going through.
Yeah, he's going through it. And what's really cool, though, is, and I said it at the tail end of this, like, that version of him a year ago would have been just fucking devastated by all this.
Yeah.
His mom, his buddy, his girl. And he's like, yeah, I can handle it. I know I got this.
Right.
And that's knowing he's got some core ego strength. He's got some sense of himself and being okay. And that's amazing. So even though we think, oh, poor Drew, yeah, I'm sorry he's going through this. And we did a lot of that, especially over the phone. Like, oh man, I'm sorry you're going through that. And how cool that he's really building up his core strength this way.
Right. Yep, for sure. And also just sorry that he has to go through this, and we all go through shit, and just the fact that like you're able to handle it this much better, Drew. Amazing.
Right.
Keep on trucking, Drew.
That's right. Indeed. Indeed. Y'all keep trucking. We will see you on the flippity flop. God, did I really say that?
Yeah, you sure did. Uh-huh.
There we have it.
On that note,
we are out. We'll see you, talk to you, be with you next week.
bye.
Bye.